Welcome to Madrasatul Mumtiaz Nahw class 99, and today's topic inshallah is al-maf'ul fihi, the adverbial object, or we can also call it dhawfu zamani wal makan. Dhawfu zamani wal makan, and this means the adverbs of time and place. So what are the adverbs of noun and place? What are dhawfu zaman wal makan? So we're told that the zarf zaman and makan are nouns that are used to depict the time and place where an action that is a fi'l, where it occurs. So somebody does something, and the zarf zaman or zarf makan tells us the place where that action happened. And they are also called al-maf'ul fihi because the noun technically contains the particle or its light. So when this particle is removed, the noun takes nasbu. So we know that when we have a particle and harfu jarri, it's what any noun that follows it goes into the genitive case. That is, it becomes majrur. It takes kasra, right? But if we remove this particle, that particle is going to now take a nasbu because the harfu jarri is no longer there. So that particle, when it's talking about time and place, it will usually become a maf'ul fihi, and the noun takes a nasbu. It becomes in the accusative case. So let's explain this with an example. Somebody says safartu laylan. When I say safartu laylan, it means I traveled in the night. So that laylan is an example of a zarful makan. And how do we know zarful makan? We can see it is telling us when the action happened, and the action happened in the night. So, and we said al maf'ul fihi because we could actually put fi. I could say safartu fil layl, and it would mean that what I traveled in the night. But we remove that fi, that harfu jarri, and that layl now becomes a zarful makan, and it now takes nasbu when it is functioning as a zarf or a maf'ul fihi. So, and for this zuruf, that zuruf is the plural, the jamu of zarfun. So for this zuruf, we have different types of zarf. We have the zarf zaman, which is talking about time, and we have many examples of them in Arabiya. So we have a few examples here, and I would go through them so we can become familiar with them. Lahzotan, which means a second. Daqiqatan, a minute. Kubayla, shortly before. Bu'aida, shortly after. Sa'atan, in an hour. Suway'atan, in a short time. Yawman, a day. Yawman ma, some day or any day. Al-yawma, today. Yawma, which is a mudafu ila jumla. So it means I could say, maybe for example, yawman nahr, the day of slaughtering, when we are talking about the day of Eid, for example. So we use it as a mudaf, and that tells us the place, the time when something happens, when we use it as a mudaf. We have ayyaman, in a few days. For example, if I say akal to ayyaman, it means I eat on some days. So godan, which means tomorrow. Amsi, which means yesterday. Al-barihata, which means yesternight. Al-an, now. Saharon, the dawn time, that is the time of sahur. Fajrun, dawn, we know that is fajr, which is what, dawn time. Sobahan, in the morning. Ashiyan, in the afternoon. Duhan, which is the mid-morning, the early morning, after the time between sunrise and noon. Zuhuron, which is noon. Asron, afternoon, which is afternoon. Asilan means late afternoon. Asilan is the time between Asr and Maghrib. Maghriban, which is the evening, the sunset. Aisha'an, it means night. Malijan, it means after a long while, or a long while. Hunayhatan means a short while. Burhatan, also a short while. Laylan, night. Naharon, day. Laylan, that is the dark part of the day, that is the night. Naharon, which means the bright part of the day. so we can just say day. Laylata, which means a night, maybe when we are talking about a specific night, for example, Laylat al-Qadr. So if I say Solaitu Laylat al-Qadr, so we are talking about I prayed on the Laylat al-Qadr. I say Solaitu Laylat, and I prayed for one night. Yawm al-Ahad, so this is the Sunday, so days of the week. So they are also Zuruf Zaman, because they tell us the time when something happened. So we can say Yawm al-Ahadi, or if we don't want to call the Yawma, we just say al-Ahada, which is Sunday. And we know the other days of the week, al-Ithnain, al-Thulatha, al-Rubi'a, and so on, and up to Jumu'ah, Yawm al-Sabt. So those are the days of the week. They are also Zuruf Zaman. Usbu'an, week. So it happened in a week, or usbu'ain, it happened over a time of 2 weeks, or it will happen in 2 weeks time. Shaharon, a month. Ashhuron, which is the plural of month, which means months. Or shuhuron is also another version of the plural of shaharon. Shita'an, which is winter. Soifan, which is summer. Khorifan, that is the autumn or fall. Sanatan, a year, which is also the same thing as Ayaman, which is also the period of a year, as well as Haulan is also a year. Kornan is a century, 100 years. Or Kurunan, we say centuries, maybe something happened over centuries. Al-Ishriniyat, it's 20, a period of 20 years. Thalathiniyat, a period of 30 years. And Arba'iniyat, and so on, up to 100. Athna'a, which means during, so if we say during a time, in the middle of a time. Mudatan, which is a period of time. Let's say it took a mudatan, it took a while, it took a period of time. If is when, either just talks about when something happens just generally, and probably something will come after if, explaining when we are talking about. Munzu means since, and another version is mudh, which also means since. Hina also means sometime. Ahyanan means sometimes. So if I say af'aluhu ahyanan, I do it sometimes. Or tarotan also means sometimes. Abadan means forever. Khalidina fiha abadan, they will live there forever. Daharon also means a point in time. Same thing as zamanan, it also means a time, a period, time, and so on. So things that are just the general idea of time. So like daharon, zamanan, Sa'atan are used to express such. Sarmadan means forever, to eternity. Da'iman, always. Qadiman, in the days of old, like old times, like formerly or before. Hadithan, current, that's like modern or contemporary time. So that is always hadithan to mean. Ajilan, which means something happened quickly, that is in a short while. Or ajilan, which means later. Or lahikon, which also means later. Akhiron, lastly. Fatrotan, which is a short period of time, like a break. Or miroron, repeatedly. So if you say something was done miroron, you see that miroron is telling us the time when it happened, and that it happened over and over again. Tekroron also means, it has the same meaning, and you usually hear the phrase miroron wa tekroron, which means that thing happened over and over again. It happened a lot of times. So that is some examples of Zorful Zaman. So now we also have the examples of Zorful Makan, and I will also go through them. Fauqa, which means above. Tahta means below. Amama, which means in front of, or tujaha, which means facing. So in front of, or is facing something. Waro'a means behind. Hawla means around. Yaminan, by the right. Shimalan, by the left. Khalfa, which means behind. Khalfa is what we call an ismu the bijya, which means an opposite. It can mean behind and can also mean in front. Mostly you will see that khalfa will usually mean behind. Wasato, in the middle. Kharija, outside. Dakhila, inside. Izaa, opposite. Kudama, in front of or facing. Or towards, or you can also say tilqa'a, or kudama can also mean towards or facing. Shatro means like the length of something. So shatra is a measure of length. Gorban, west. Sharqan, east. Januban, south. Shamalan, north. Milan, a mile. Mitron, a meter. Haythu, where. Haythu is like just like we have if, which tells us when. Haythu can also means where. For example, if I say haythu kana, wherever it is or wherever it may be. Huna means here, and hunaka means there. So these are our examples of zuruful zaman, and these are our examples of zuruful makan. So now we also have some words that can work as both zuruful zaman and zuruful makan. So we also have some words that can work as both zuruful zaman and zuruful makan. And an example here for us under those words are qabla, which means before, ba'da, which means after. So you can say before the place or after the place, or before that time or after that time. At the same time, we also have ba'da, which means after. Baina, which means in between. Mada means throughout, so we can say throughout a particular time. So that is our zurf zaman and our zuruf makan. So we've learned a lot of words, so you can always come back to this video and revise these words, maybe memorize some of them and use them in your day-to-day language, so that you get used to them and you won't forget them. So some more technical aspects of the Zorf Zaman wal Makan, which is the Nahw aspect, the grammar. So we are told that when the particle fi and its likes can't be technically added to an adverb, then it means that the action is not taking place in them, and at that moment we cannot say it is functioning as a maf'ul fi. But we said earlier that we call them maf'ul fihi because normally the word fi would usually fit in there, and when we remove it, it becomes nasbu. So we see one of these things we have called a zorful makan or zorful zaman, and it is in a particular place in a sentence that if we put fi behind it, it would not make any sense. Then we would realize that it is not functioning as maf'ul fihi here, because it could be functioning as something else. It could be a fa'il, it could be a maf'ul bi, it could be a mubtada, it could be a khabar, but at that particular time we cannot say it's working as a zorf zaman or zorf makan. For example, we see ja'a yawmul eid, the day of Eid has come. So we can see that no action is taking place. We are not saying the action is taking place on the day of Eid. Rather, in this case, we are saying that the day of Eid is our fa'il. If you look at it Nahw with our grammar understanding, our Nahw understanding, we see that Yawmu is a fa'il in this particular case, and it is the action performer. So we cannot say an action is being performed in it. So in this particular case, we cannot say it is functioning as a zorf zaman or a maf'ul fi. Another example, we say uhibbu laylat al-jum'ah, I love the night of Jum'ah. So you can see that the layla in this case is actually the word upon which the action is being performed, and so in this case it is a maf'ul bi, and it will not be functioning as a zorf, rather it will be functioning as a maf'ul bi. So that is an important note for us to understand about zorf zaman wal makan. So now let's note something very, very important, is that once we say something is a zorf, we can see that it has to be an ism. It can't be an harf. So when we say it is a zorf, then automatically it is an ism. It is an ism as far as Arabiya is concerned. So it may probably mean something else in English. Maybe when you translate it to English, it means over, and you probably say an over is a preposition in English. But in Arabiya, it is still an ism. So the moment you see a zarf, it is an ism and it is not an harfu jarri. So if you now see something coming after it and that thing is taking a jarr, it is because our zarf is acting as a mudaf to that particular word. So it is not an harfu jarr. So when we see fawqa, when we see tahta, when we see amama, all of these are zuruf and not huruf al-jarr. So that is a basic understanding of zarf al-zaman wal-makan. So now we are going into a few more concepts that we would also understand, that will help us understand this concept of maf'ul fihi better and also be able to relate to this maf'ul fihi. So we've said maf'ul fihi can be divided generally into zarf al-zaman wal-makan, but we can also classify them in other ways. For example, due to their i'rab, which is their declination. So does it change based on its position in the sentence? For example, we have some of these that are mu'rab, like laylun or yawmun or tahta or fawqa. So you hear tajri min tahtiha. So for those of us that recite the Quran, you hear tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. So tahta, when min comes before it, it takes jagu. That shows that it is mu'rab. Or laylan, which means what? In the night. When we say ja al-laylu, you can see that it takes rafa, and that is a mu'rab. And examples of mabniyu are the ones that don't change no matter where you put them in the sentence. Like qattu. Qattu means what? Never or ever or ever. Qattu means never. So no matter where you put it in the sentence, it's still going to remain mabniyu. It doesn't change. Amsi too, which means yesterday, is also mabniyu. It doesn't change. Or al-an or if or idha or haythu, all of these are mabniyu and they don't change. So we can classify maf'ul fi based on that. Another classification we can use to identify maf'ul fi are some that are ambiguous and they are specified. So you can see that when we're bringing up examples, you can see that the way each of those examples function are very, very different. For example, those that are mubham don't indicate a specific time or place. They are kind of general. Like for example, if I say ba'da, if I say so it means after. So after does not really tell me. If I say I did it after, it doesn't really specify anything, unless maybe I use it as a mudaf and I say ba'da sa'ati thalitha. Okay, I did it after 3 p.m. So in that case, you can see that ba'da, that is you can see that we can use it. We can we can change it and we can use it to mean different times. So depending on whatever is surrounding it. So it does not indicate a specified time on its own. However, the mahdud refers to something that is specific, that we know very well on its own. For example, when you say laylan, then it means in the night. It means when everywhere is dark. So I can't say layla and somewhere everywhere is bright at layla. I can't change it like that. It's not that malleable. So it is quite specific. Or if I say mitron, it means a meter, or milan, a mile. So we all understand what a mile means. So it doesn't change. It's not as it refers to something like specific, basically. So that is our mubham and mahdud in the zarf al-zaman wal-makan. And the final is the conjugate and non-conjugate. That is the mutasarrif and the ones that are not ghayru mutasarrif. Like we explained before, that when we see our zarf al-zaman wal-makan, sometimes they may be in a position that if you put fi before it wouldn't make sense, but that is not applicable to all types of zarf. So that will only happen to zuruf that are mutasarrif, like laylun or yawmun. You can say akaltu laylan, I ate at night. Let's look at the contextual usage of layl. You can say safartu laylan. In this case, it's functioning as a zarf, like we've explained before. But when I say uhibbu layla, it is a maf'ul will be in that case. It is not functioning as a zarf. So for that, we can say that laylan is a mutasarrif. It is a zarfun mutasarrif. Or we say al-laylu afdalu min an-nahar. Here it is functioning as a mubtada, and as such, it's we can say it is what mutasarrif. It doesn't always function as zarf. But this is not the case for all zuruf. There are some zuruf that the only work they can do is to work as a zarf, and we call them ghayru mutasarrif. So they are non-conjugate. For example, fawqa. we can only use fawqa to indicate that something is above. We can only use it to indicate place. We cannot use it in another place. We cannot start a sentence by saying fawqu or anything like that. It always has to function as a zarf. So, and that's why we have fawqa, tahta, inda, qabla, ba'da, and so on. So they only function as zarf. So point 3, we've explained the classifications of maf'ul fi, that we can classify them based on their declination. We can classify them based on whether they are ambiguous or specific, and we can classify them whether they are conjugate or non-conjugate. Now the final point for this lesson, we'll talk about there are some where other things may function like a zarfu or makan. So there are some other nouns that we may use them in such a position that they would function like zarfu zaman or makan. They will be telling us the place or the time where something happened. So, and because of that, they will also take nasbu state, but they are not actually zarfu zaman or makan in themselves. So, and we said some of them are the masdaru mutadammin ma'ana zarfu wal adad al mumayyiz. Let me just go to the explanation straight and I'll take them one by one. So al masdaru mutadammin ma'ana zarf is a masdar, that is a gerund that has the meaning of a zarf. For example, safartu tulu ash-shamsi, I traveled at the time of rise, when the sun was rising. So we can see that at the rising of the sun. So we can see that the rising is not actually a zarful makan or zarful zaman in that case. It is actually a masdar. However, we can see that it is telling us the time when something happened. So we can say that it is working, it is doing the job of a zarf, even though it is not actually a zarf. Or la'ibtu qurbal bayt, I played close to the at a place close to the house. So qurba is also a masdar. However, in the real sense, it is not actually a zarf, but we can see that it is telling us the place where something happened. So it is basically functioning as a zarf. So that's the first one. The second example is the al-adadu al-mumayyaz bi ism al-zaman wa ism al-makan. An adad that is a number that is telling us a number that is explaining to us the time when ism al-zaman or ism al-makan. So that is explaining an ism al-zaman or makan. So for example, Sawma Zaidu 30 yawman, Zaid fasted for 30 days. So you can see that this adad, it is a mayyaz, that it is working with, that is or we can say it is explaining the yawm. It is telling us how many days it is. So, and when we say Sawma Zaidun 30, we can see 30 is coming right after Zaid, and it's also taking nasbu because it is the place or it is the time when Zaid fasted. So, but 30, we know it is a number. It is not actually a zarf. The real zarf is actually the yawma, but because it is also working together with the zarf, it also takes the nasbu. In the same way, we have Jaro Aliyun Thalatha Amyal. Ali ran for 3 miles. So it tells us the place where that action happened. However, Thalatha on its own is not actually a zarf, but it is adadu. It is the adad. It is the number that is explaining the number of zarf that happens there. So, and I think the final one. Okay, we have 2 more after this. That is the ismu mudafun ila zarfi mimma dalla ala kulliyati aw ba'diyya. It is an ismu, it is a mudaf that is also telling us a zarf. It is also explaining to us a zarf, and it's dalla ala kulliyya. It explains whether that whole zarf, that whole time or place is affected aw ba'diyya or part. Let me just give us an example to clarify that. Usalli nisfal layli, I pray for half of the night. So if I say usalli laylan, it means I pray at night. But this ismu that is the mudaf, it comes to explain what part of the night, whether it is part or the whole of the night, by telling us that nisfu, which is half of the night. So I pray for half of the night. Usalli nisfal layli. So that ismu, you can see that it is working as if it is a zarf in this case. Or how atasaddaqu kulla yawmin, I give sadaqah every day. So I could have said atasaddaqu yawman, I I give sadaqah on a day, or I give sadaqah in the day, but that would not be explanatory. So this ismu mudaf that explains to us on how much of the days I actually use to give sadaqah is actually functioning as if it is a zarf, even though in the real sense it is not actually a zarf. So we also have ismul isharo. Ismul isharo, we know our ismul isharo usually our nouns that point to something. So ma akaltu hada sabah. So hada is an example of ismul isharo, and in this case it is working as it's telling us the time when something happened. So it works as if it is a zarful zaman. And finally we have the sifa to zarf. That is when we have a sifa together with our zarf. Just the same way we had our ismul isharo together with our zarf, or we had a mudaf together with our zarf, and they were acting as if they were zarf. We can also have a sifa, which is a night. For example, Soma Zaidun Kathiran, Zaid fasted a lot. So it tells us the time when the fasting happened, and which is what, a lot of days. So technically we said what, Soma Zaidun Ayaman Kathiratan, but we didn't say the Ayaman, so we just left only the sifa, and so the sifa starts to function as if it is a zarf in this case. Or Nimtu Qalilan, which is I slept a little. So the little I'm talking about is a little time. I slept for a little time, but however we have removed the zarf, and the sifatu of the zarf is now acting as if it is an actual zarf. So we have some examples of maf'ul fihi in the Quran. Allah says wa fawqa kulli dhi ilmin alim. So fawqa is a maf'ul fihi. Wa qutulu yusufa wa tarahuhu ardan. Kill Yusuf or throw him to a land. So ardan is a maf'ul fihi, that is where the action should happen. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan. Laylan tells us when that journey happened, when that asra, that verb, when it happened, was at night. That is our zarf zaman. And we have other examples. So, but I think this video is already quite long, so I'm going to break it here, inshallah. And that brings us to the end of our of this lesson on zarfu zaman wal makan. So, inshallah, we go back to our text for the next for our next lesson, which is our Nahw 100 class 100. Inshallah, we are going to close on the other part of the maf'ul fihi, where we go to our text, and so we are going to end our lesson there, inshallah. So subhanakallahumma bihamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Je vidéo kan. Abbas bien. On va.
Uende ukuthi kuyakhona edo wahand